music, comedy, food. Those are uniters. We're all about uniting. We've had everyone from Childish Gambino to Weird Al to Flava Flav to Rancid and the Specials. Whatever gives kids and teens a voice using music. Most of the artists that are involved in the charity usually are like, "Oh my God, a guitar saved my life." That was life changing for me. Loved it. It's really important in life to
Today's conversation is with Emmy-winning writer and producer Donick Cary, the founder and president of Musack. Donick, thanks for joining us today.
Thrilled to be here.
Outstanding. As we get started, I'd love to ask, what's the most important message you have to share with our audience today?
Do good things. Jump in and do good things. Lean towards the light. I is like some weird way that I interpret it, is just like when things seem dark, head towards things that make you feel lighter and feel better.
I love the positivity behind that. So you are the founder and president of Musack. We can learn more at musack.org, musack.org. What inspired you to create Musack?
So Musack actually started, let's see, we're in our 16th year. This is our sweet 16. It started when I turned 40. I had a birthday party in my hometown where I grew up, and I reunited a ska punk band from high school to play at that party. And this is in, I grew up on Nantucket Island, which is has a wonderful reputation, a lot of money and big time summer fun. But the winter, also a beautiful place, but it shuts down a lot. It's very quiet and can be considered claustrophobic. And we all felt a little bit like, where did everyone go and why did they abandon us? And like in any small town, you deal with a lot of things, drug abuse and ways that people cope with claustrophobia. Anyway, the summer that we were having this birthday party and when we reunited, there had been a number of teen suicides in the high school that I went to. And we were, I lost a very good friend in high school to teen suicide, another friend who had tried to commit suicide. And we were kind of reunited here at 40 years old, looking back and going like, how did we get through high school? How did we lose other friends and whatever? And the answer for us, it kept coming back to music. We discovered different bands, Elvis Costello and the Specials and the Grateful Dead and the Dead Kennedys and this wide variety of music. And we learned how to play the music and we made mixtapes with the music. And so music really was there for us when we needed it. And so out of that, I went and talked to the music teacher at the high school and just tried to get a sense of how they were coping with this long winter that they had just survived and losing a number of kids. And he said something interesting to me. He said, I don't really know, but I have 10 kids who want to play guitar and we have no guitars. And that was like, okay, I don't know what you do about any of this stuff, but we can get 10 guitars. And it was just sort of like, what can you do? Here's something you can do. So we got 10 guitars that year. We gave them to the high school program there. 6 months later, he sent me an email with the kids playing music and with the guitars we got. And it was like, I was like, oh, there's some answer here. And he said, I actually have 10 more kids if your charity has 10 more guitars. And we were like, I was like, great, let's get 10 more guitars. How do we do this? So that's where it started. We set up a 501c3. We got a nonprofit status. And then we started to do fundraisers here in LA and also hear about music programs everywhere that were facing funding cuts, budget cuts, kids who wanted to do different kinds of programs. And we were like, well, there's no reason we can't help wherever the need arises. This feels like there's real need out there. So that's where it started.
That's beautiful. Because of what you just said, I'm going to actually push a little deeper and ask, there's a really good chance some of the people watching this, they are philanthropists occasionally. Are there immediate requests you have for someone watching and listening today that we can help with?
Well, so the first thing I would say is we love sugar dads and moms to jump in and support however we can. We've structured this in a way that we can be We can be pretty nimble and help wherever need arises and whatever that is. Some of our programs that we've had reach out from are as small as 5 kids who want to start a band on the Navajo reservation, and they go like, we don't know how to do this, and we find teachers, and and then we build with them something that they want. And some of the programs we do are as big as like the Chattanooga, it just happens to be one we do, but the Chattanooga public school system, and they wanted help buying 500 guitars for their programs. And we're like, well, great, let's figure out how to get 500 guitars into kids' hands. So they're big and small. They're all over the place. We would love help organizationally, having some more sort of grant money or bigger money that we could. This is a very DIY event. I do it. I have a partner in crime, Katie Cairns, who comes in, and we pay her a little bit every year to help me get everything done. But we would love help having bigger money we can count on every year for a little bit more of the structure of what we do, and then we could reach more programs, et cetera. So there's a couple things. One is we'll take help wherever we can get it. 2 is we have requests coming in all the time. If someone, who wants to give money is like, I love musical opera, high school opera, or I love, classical music, or I love punk rock, or I love this, we can kind of tailor and connect a little bit with like, oh, here's somebody who really feels strongly about musical theater, for example. And we go like, well, we had this request from this program. Great. Let's make sure their donations go directly to that. So there's a direct thing, but we can also just take donations top line to help with everything. That was rambling, but have them reach out. I'd love to talk.
I love that, because for those watching who maybe have very nice seats to the Hollywood Bowl every year, maybe if we could consider having them. They love music, obviously. If they're out, maybe they're at the Madison Square Garden quite a bit. Maybe some fraction of that can go to you in the future next year.
Yeah, we would love that. And we also love help. Our fundraising mostly comes through these backyard events we do. We book a lot of bands. We've had everyone from Childish Gambino to Weird Al to Flava Flav to Rancid and the Specials. Like, we get bands that we love. They come and play. We raise money with that, and it goes right to the kids' programs. And there's sort of this, we love bringing donors into that loop, which is we get to have a good time raising the money, and the money goes to a thing that then creates a good time for kids that then feeds back. We've had kids come and open for the bands on different years, and artists go and play with the kids. We've done 45 record releases where artists do the A side and kids do the B side. So there's a real connection between the artists and the kids programs. Also, it's very transparent, very hands-on, and feels like a win for everybody involved always.
So we've mentioned the donating guitars. You mentioned there the B side of records. What's maybe one of your favorite stories about how Musack has helped? Now, what's the terminology? Helped students, or who is the ultimate audience for Musack?
It's a good question. It's a thing that we keep trying to define, and then we'll get a request for something that doesn't quite fit it. And we're like, but like musical theater, for example, was like, we were all about, we started where we were like, oh, great, getting kids to play guitar and punk rock songs. And then it was like, well, these kids want to do rap music and rap production, so they don't need guitars. And they actually, they want to write rap songs. So that was one of the first things. I guess that's a good story to tell, actually, but it makes us expand the definition every year. The real part of it is whatever gives kids and teens a voice using music to get through those years where sometimes you hit a wall, most of the artists that are involved in the charity usually are like, oh my God, a guitar saved my life. We want to make sure that every kid that a guitar or whatever version of music is that will save their life and give them some kind of voice, that we're there for them, and make sure their music program or their teachers or their school system has the tools to do that. So one example, what is this rap program? The pretty much it was like the second year that we existed. We had some kids reach out and we're like, we don't want guitars, we want to rap. And they were on Nantucket, and it was the year-round population. And they were Jamaican and Eastern European kids who were writing rap songs. And they were like, this always sounds bad, I guess, when I explain it, but they were like, we hate on each other, whatever. And that's like, wait, what, like, what is that? And they're like, well, we write like these disses and these raps, and then we make fun of each other, and then we can kind of all do this together, and it's fun for us to hang. So it was a way for them to kind of hang out together. But we gave them a grant. We had some help from the Nantucket Community Music Center. They have a production booth. They set up, we had a teacher get down there and meet them every week. They'd trudge through the snow. They'd bring their lyrics. They wrote these rap songs. And by the end of the year, they had all written these incredible songs. Some of them, I would say, should have a adult, like a kid's warning on, like you're not safe for school. But at the same time, it was like, this is what they're like, sharing their most inner, like what they need to shout about. And I was like, that's what this is all about. So that was great. And a real lesson for us was that, we don't want to be imposing a program on kids. We want to hear from them what they need, because they'll show up for that, what kinds of music they want to play. One other quick story. I was in a Aboriginal detention center in Brisbane, Australia. And the music teacher there was a just really interesting dude. He loves Iron Butterfly of all bands. I'm like, I don't even know, like, what? Iron Butterfly? He's like, yeah, I try to teach him Iron Butterfly songs. And this is like, these kids are Aboriginal kids in Australia who have been like picked up for going on a joyride in a car and then put in essentially a prison system. It's crazy. But we were helping him with a lot of guitars. And he said the kids came to me and they want to learn is Bob Marley. And I was like, so do you let them play Bob Marley? And he was like, well, yeah, of course. If that's what they want to do, that's what they'll show up for. And it was like this theme of like, listen to the kids. What is the thing that they want to play? Because they'll show up every week if you're feeding that, so we really try to support that and what they're asking for.
And I'm really getting the fact here that you're helping these kids get a voice and not too dramatic a lifeline through the music they create with your program.
Yeah. And we hope that we're also, funding music. There's a type of music teacher that when I talk to, I'm just like, they get it. They listen to the kids. There's like it feels like there's two types. There's one that is like imposing a methodology and a system. And it's like, that's great for some programs. And in fact, we might even consider supporting, but where I really get excited is when there's a music teacher who's like, they're making music with the kids, and the kids are equal partners in that process. When you have a band, it's a team. And so the music teacher becomes part of that team. We love that. And so more of that wherever we can find it.
So for everyone watching we're usually talking to winemakers and chefs. Today we're talking to the founder and president of Musack, Donick Cary. Learn more about Donick at Musack, musack.org. I think the biggest event of the year for you every year is the Musack Rock and Roll Carnival. It is a heck of an undertaking. And if someone watching is a concert producer or a festival producer, LA Wine Fest, for instance, they understand what it takes to put on a festival. You do so many things in one day. I've been there twice. It is a true carnival. It is a blast. It is good music. It is people in a really good mood. Talk about the undertaking that it is. Give us some highlights. You mentioned a few minutes ago some of the people who performed, but just for someone who hasn't been there yet, give us an idea of the scope of it and what it really is.
Yeah, it's interesting because we both like to keep it. It's in our backyard, first of all, which is like which kind of makes the scale of it it can only go so far, but we have about 500 people show up in the backyard. It started as really just like, we'll barbecue and have a band, and our friends Yola Tango came and played the first year, and then we're like, oh, Yola Tango's coming, why don't we have some comedy also? And so we had a few people doing stuff and basically just grilling burgers, and then called it a rock and roll carnival, and that was great. The next year it grew a little bit. Every year it's kind of plumped a little bit more. It kind of comes out of, I'm a writer producer. I work in TV and stuff. And I, at a certain point, I realized there was this like wonderful opportunity for me as a comedy person to bug bands who also like comedy, that there was sort of this back and forth thing. And I went like, well, if there was a good reason to bug bands, then maybe we could all do something together. And this sort of materialized as a place to do that. So it's a ridiculous thrill fun for me to write everyone from Jeff Tweedy to Pavement to Pavarotti. Anybody goes is like, I get to kind of bug them and go like, hey, we're doing this thing. This is why it matters. This is what it feeds. Would that be something you're interested in? I found that it's like 1 in 20 or something. I'll get a response, and then it's like 1 in 20 again will actually show up. But the people who show up have an amazing time. It's a one of a kind event. It's not like anything else. It's very DIY, but it also feels like the people who come and participate both as donors get an experience that doesn't happen anywhere else. They meet the artists, they meet they meet everyone who's making the food. We're kind of all doing it together. But we're also all doing this thing, which is giving instruments and lessons and supporting kids' music programs. So you feel good about being here. The artists feel good about being here. It just feels like a win all around. To answer your question, I guess, is like, how do we do it? I bug people, Katie bug people all year. People who come always have ideas. Are like, oh my God, somebody will show up and go like, do you know Me First, the Gimme Gimmes? I'm like, no, I do. Let me ask them. They'd be great at this, and you go like, okay. And then the next year, suddenly Me First, the Gimme Gimmes are there. So it's a little bit of an all hands on deck experience. Some people show up and have a great idea for catering, great idea for wine. They could donate this or that. We have a silent auction. So, we can include almost anything in that if people have things to donate. We've kept the overhead very low. So, every dollar raised goes right to kids programs and not to like mailing campaigns and et cetera. But we can always use help. And it feels like there's usually every time we do an event, there's another 20 people like you who show up and go like, hey, this was so cool. How could I help? I want to be involved. And we're like, great, let's figure it out. So it's a lot of asking favors of fun people and then seeing what mix of people show up. I try to produce it sometimes where I'm like, this year it should be blank. And then we'll get 3 or 4 people who say yes. And you're like, that doesn't really fit this thing. Okay. It's going to be this other thing, but it is what it is.
The 2 years I went, the silent auction items were, for music lovers especially, just crazy amazing. Was there one thing this year that really just caught your eye? Like, wow, that's an amazing item.
I mean, I have a love-hate with our auction because we do a lot of asking, we get a lot of amazing things. And then I'm like, oh my God, I want that. And I'm like, I'm really inviting people to come to this charity and have fun and bid on stuff. And then I'm outbidding somebody on a guitar. The quick version, a couple of things come to mind is like, 1 year I got Neil Young to sign a guitar and I was like, oh, that's so cool. When are we ever going to get Neil Young to sign a guitar again? So I kind of felt like I wanted to bid on it. And of all people, skateboarder, the most famous skateboarder,
Tony Hawk
was there and bidding on this guitar. And I was like, it seems weird to invite someone to come to this thing and then outbid them on a guitar that they seem to really want. So I had to pull out of the bidding and let Tony Hawk, go home with that. But he also donated signed things too. So amazing. We have an interesting mix because people like Tony Hawk or Shepard Fairey is involved, they love to be a part of it. And then they donate things from their personal collection and or archives, et cetera. So Shepard always donates incredible art. There was a great David Byrne print that he donated this year. That's what I was coveting. So it's pretty random. I bug everybody from every show I've ever worked on. So Matt Groening and the Simpsons will get involved. Parks and Recreation have gotten involved in the past. We try to keep it things that you wouldn't see anywhere else, and also things that you would actually want. Like I'm always pursuing auction items of things like I would want to do that. And then of course I'm here at the event going like, I want to bid on all those things. And my wife's like, no, we don't need more things. We're good.
Before I came that day, I was looking through the different things on the website. And one of them things like, renew your wedding vows. And I just thought, cute idea. Is anyone going to do it? And I think there was 2 couples, right?
There were 2 couples.
Yeah, it was a blast seeing everyone cheer these couples at the same time. It was very much a community feeling.
Yeah, I think I had a sort of a revelation about fundraising around when we started this, and you get invited to a lot of fundraisers, and everybody needs to raise money. There's so many good causes to support. And I started to there was a certain kind of fundraiser that I was like, oh, I'm happy to give some money to this. I don't want to have to go to this sort of, wonderfully, people try really hard, but like the set plate and the dinner and a speech and a thing. And I'm like, I already get it. I'm in, I'm happy to help, but I want to go to things that are fun, or that I love. And I felt like, oh, there's so many other people out there. So yeah, we've tried to keep this open to anyone, really fun, and then try to be creative with how are we going to milk people for as much money as they're up for giving. You buy a ticket, that's great, we love that. If you see something in the auction, great, that we love that. And then what are the other opportunities? So we threw in a few things this year, different packages. There's a full wedding package if you want to do your wedding vows here, and the full thing with a cake and stuff. But we also just did a vow renewal this past year. I went to the Elvis Wedding Chapel in Vegas with my wife. We had a blast. I was like, why don't we just do that at Musack? If somebody wants to donate a little more money, they could have their vows renewed, get a certificate, have cake where no one else is getting cake at this event. Anyway, so that was we're just throwing out ideas and see what sticks.
We're talking today with the founder and president of Musack, musack.org, Donick Cary. If the name sounds familiar, it's because you've probably seen his credits on a TV screen. If you don't mind, Donick, can we talk about some of the very popular TV shows you've been a part of, talk about the work you've done, and more importantly for us is, what are some life lessons that you've learned about how to achieve the level of success you have?
Yeah, so I've had a wonderfully lucky career. I think luck has a lot to do with things, but you also, you prepare for luck, you work really hard and are ready for those moments. And then when the lightning strikes, you run for it, the little openings. I worked at the David Letterman show was where I started. I ended up as the head writer on that show for a little while. I moved from there to the Simpsons. I've worked on New Girl and Parks and Recreation and Silicon Valley. I made a movie recently called Have a Good Trip, Adventures in Psychedelics, which is on Netflix. Cartoons and live action and all sorts of stuff. So what I've learned from that, there is these kinds of shows and this kind of production is all collaborative. We count on each other. It's a team sport, all of this, which goes to just about everything in life. It's like we depend on each other. We sometimes disagree on where the story's going in a writer's room, but we have to make a thing. And so you have to figure out who's good at what, how to have everyone be a part of the team. That when you've participated and some of your ideas are in the mix, you feel better about the episode. All of those are lessons with how to just treat other people and how to work with other people. Life is a collaborative sport. We can't do anything on our own. So one of the biggest lessons I think is, and this comes from parenting more than show business, but is listening. Listening is a really hard talent to learn how to use and to really do. Listen to what other people are saying, and then figure out how they can be part of the what you're working on and contribute. Musacks and exercise also in hey, this person is saying that they have access to a winery, so I'm not going to go ask them to book me Guns N' Roses. They can get wine. They should definitely bring wine. That's easy if there's so figure out what people are good at and what feels good to them, and then having them be part of the bigger process. Great. We always find that on writers' rooms of like, there's some people are really good at story. Some people are really good at jokes. Some people are really good at managing the different departments and learning how to recognize that and then delegate and celebrate that. Anyway, that's a quick version.
But it works. It's really, really good advice. I think there's people out there who, whether they're a student and they're aspiring to enter that level of their life, that's great advice for everyone, no matter where they're at in their journey.
I think one other thing, because we kind of set it up, is I also think it's really important in life to get used to hearing no. Is like, and that failure is not really, failure is how you define it, but you have to fail a lot to be successful. That there's usually 9 fails between every success, and that really happens with like getting shows on the air or getting episodes of TV written for sure. But it also has been a core piece of what Musack is I ask 10, 20 people to help with stuff. And one of them comes through and you're like, well, you can look at that as 9 failures, or you can look at that as one huge success. Like we had the specials play here. That was life-changing for me. Loved it. That took a lot of asks, but if I lived in the nose, I'd be dead. It's that one yes that sustains you and fulfills you and stuff. So keep asking.
No, that's the perfect life lesson. Absolutely, positively. As I've mentioned, our audience is usually foodies, cocktail enthusiasts, winemakers, and wine lovers. Do you have a favorite meal that, whether it's cooking it, eating it, both, do you have a dream food pairing, a good meal you like?
I mean, I feel like, oh, I know what we were foodies. Like before that became like a thing, I was like, oh, that's just been a core to my existence. Chasing a good meal, travel and finding things you've never eaten before. All of those things are just part of my core. I think the best way for me to answer that question is when I leave LA for a little while, there are a few things I crave and eat in the first week that I'm back. So those things are Marouche, a Lebanese restaurant that has incredible mezes. You just go and you order mezes, however many people you are, 4, 6, 8 mezes for 8, and they'll bring 20 dishes. It is amazing. The family that ran it, the kids have taken over, but it's an institution and has been around forever. Love that. Versailles Cuban food here in LA. There's a couple locations of Versailles. That pork drenched in garlic is like with an espresso on the side and plantains and rice and beans is like, that is soul food. That is the best food, like some of the best food. I have to, within a week of being home, I'm like, we got to go to Versailles. Got us through the pandemic, ordering it. I was like, when I realized like, oh, we could order Versailles. We had it once a week. And then we just have an Indian restaurant in our neighborhood called Star of India. We love more than anything. It's basic, but chicken tikka masala from there when, our kids grew up on it. So those are our like, comfort foods here in LA, takeout comfort foods. I can't recommend enough. Cooking wise, I mean, the smell of baked bread, you can't go wrong. And good baguettes with just like good butter and baguettes at a good coffee. I'm good.
I've been to some of those restaurants you mentioned. I agree, they're fantastic. So I would say, wrapping up, the messages I'm learning today are that the power of music, the power of teamwork, and from your initial answer, the power of going towards positivity, going towards the light. I think a lot of people today watching this are going to agree with those. And so my question is, if when they hear from you, when they hear about the idea of this nonprofit, Musack, what are the best ways for them to follow up, to stay in touch with what you're working on, whether it's website, social media, something else? What are the best ways for our audience to learn more about you and Musack?
So yeah, you could definitely go to the website. You mentioned it a couple times, musack.org, Musack. You could find ways to follow us there. You can send us an email. We are on socials, Musack Rocks, on Instagram, on Facebook. You can keep track of like when we're doing a fundraiser. We do a few things throughout the year. Sometimes we'll sell t-shirts. Sometimes we'll sell these records the kids have made. Sometimes we'll have an initiative like, a band exchange that the kids are doing that we'll do a fundraiser specifically for. But you can also keep track of events we're doing. We have our once a year rock and roll carnival in LA. Because we started on Nantucket, the charity doesn't, of course, just fund programs on Nantucket, but because we started in Nantucket, we would love to do more events on Nantucket, talking about a food and drink capital of the world. But if anyone's interested in that and helping out with summer things, we'd love to bring some A-list talent out and really do, we've done smaller events there with maybe, a movie screening or in conversation. Jonathan Richman came out one year and did a show for us. Tig Notaro did a show for us out there, but we'd love to do a bigger event there. It's just so expensive to get everyone out there, but it's a wonderful place to eat and drink, summertime. So, but yeah, just our Musack Rocks and Musack.org. shoot us an email. Tell us what you could do if you have access to artists, if you have access to food and drink, and would love to do anything. We love to do those pairings of like, let's bring this artist in and eat this. Like those music, comedy, food. Those are uniters. We're all about uniting, finding places to unite.
I love it. I think the united part goes back to the collaboration of the family you mentioned earlier. This is incredible, Donick. Thank you so much for your time.